Do you know what it's like to live without a soul? Because I do. It feels like watching a romantic movie where everything is perfect and you find yourself falling for the character. Then the lights come up and you remember that person doesn't exist. And even if they did, they wouldn't care that you exist. It's like running the wrong way on a racetrack. You're putting in all this effort, running harder than anyone else, your legs screaming in agony, fire burning in your lungs. But deep down, you know it doesn't matter if you ever finish, because everyone else has crossed the line and gone home. You're still running, but only because you're terrified of the silence that will engulf you when you finally stop. Living without a soul is sitting in the eye of a hurricane. Life spins all around you, chaotic and fierce, and sometimes it feels like you're part of it when the winds brush too close. But in the end, nothing and no one can truly move you. And even though the winds howl in their savage glory, sweeping everything from under your feet, you'll never know what it feels like to join that wild dance. You tell yourself it's okay, at least you won't feel the hurt that comes with being a fragile human burdened with a soul. But deep down, you wish you could feel that hurt. Just for a moment. Just so you could know there's something important enough to hurt over. I lost my soul when I was just 6 years old. My father didn't want me, and my mother made sure I knew it. She told me I was the reason he left, and I believed her. In first grade, our class project was to create a paper lantern. The hot air from the candle was supposed to lift it, but mine wasn't sealed properly and couldn't leave the ground. After multiple failed attempts, I got so frustrated that I ripped the whole thing to shreds. That's when Mr. Hansberry, our gentle teacher with the bristly mustache, squatted next to me. He offered me the lantern he had been building and told me something that struck me hard. Do you know what I love most about paper lanterns? They might seem flimsy, but when they fly, they can carry away anything you don't want anymore. You can pour all your anger into one, and when you light the candle, it'll float away, taking that anger with it. That idea was amazing to me. I settled down, watching him glue the candle into place, concentrating on filling the lantern with my bad feelings. It started with anger over the project, but then bitterness crept in. By the time he finished, I'd poured everything I was into that paper. While the other lanterns only hovered a few feet off the ground, mine soared all the way to the sky. The other kids laughed and cheered, and Mr. Hansberry put his hand on my shoulder, proud of me, but I felt nothing. My soul was already slipping away. I remember asking Mr. Hansberry if I could go home with him. He said no, that my mother wouldn't like it. I insisted she would, but it didn't matter. It was too late to take back what had happened. That night I heard something. I didn't see them, but I could hear them breathing when I lay down to sleep, soft, regular breaths like a sleeping animal. I lay in the dark, clutching my covers, crying for hours while my mom slept, too afraid to get out of bed. I think I finally drifted off just as dawn broke. In the morning, Mom was angry for keeping her up. She'd heard me but thought I'd give up eventually. I didn't get breakfast that day, and I didn't mention the breathing again. That was just the beginning. Without a soul, I noticed things I shouldn't have: beady eyes glinting from under the sofa, dark flashes in my peripheral vision, scuffling in the drawers, late-night knocks on doors and windows. I never got a good look at them, but they were always watching. I'd wake up, feeling their weight pinning me down. Rough skin, dirty fingers digging into my nose and mouth. They invaded my mind, inserting thoughts so vile I knew they couldn't be mine, yet the longer they lingered, the harder it became to tell. Did I want to stab a needle into my eye? Probably not. Then why couldn't I stop thinking about it? Were they making me think about hurting my classmates or setting fires just to watch the chaos? Or was that all me? In those first few nights I lay awake, crying to myself. But soon, I learned to be more afraid of my mom than the creatures. They never hit me, after all. I wouldn't call it living, but I existed like that for years, exhausted and numb. Colors were muted, sounds muffled, except for their breath and scrapes. I could only truly feel at night, but those were the times I wished I could feel less. I found a trick to cope. I convinced myself my body wasn't mine. Nothing it felt could harm me. The real me was safe, flying high in a paper lantern. No matter what happened to my flesh or what it did to anyone else, it didn't matter. I was untouchable. By the time I was 14, I'd lost all ability to distinguish the origins of my thoughts. I just knew I wanted to hurt someone, hurt them as badly as I wanted to be hurt. I picked fights, pushed classmates around. I once drove a pencil into someone's hand, grinding it until the tip broke off inside their skin. The creatures snickered, but it felt like a pathetic attempt. When I was called into the principal's office, I was surprised to see Mr. Hansberry there. The principal raged, lecturing me while Mr. Hansberry looked tired and sad. Once dismissed, he leaned in and asked, "Have you looked for it?" I had no idea what he meant. I stared at him coldly, like a marble statue. "Your lantern. Did you ever try to get it back?" I told him to go screw himself. He gripped my shoulder, stopping me from leaving. I thought sending it away would be easier than facing it, but I was wrong. People can't hide from themselves. The pencil was good, but not enough. As the creatures crawled over me at night, their intentions mingling with mine, I decided to bring a knife next time. A gun didn't feel personal enough. I wanted to look into someone's eyes as I hurt them. And afterward? It didn't matter. The real me was floating away, safe from harm. That night, I walked out at midnight, the taste of dirty fingers still fresh in my mouth. I headed to the 24-hour gas station on the corner, kitchen knife gripped tightly. The laughter of the creatures surrounded me, and for a moment I felt alive. Then I saw a paper lantern, floating just a few feet off the ground. It was filthy stained, but I knew it was mine. The creatures howled in fury. They wanted to tear it apart. I plucked it from the air, guiding it to the ground as they screeched around me, their feral anger futile against the miraculous flame. Holding the lantern close, I found a note attached. "I found this in the woods. Took a couple days to find it, Mr. H." I collapsed on the sidewalk, trembling, sobbing like an idiot, until the flame guttered out from my tears. As the creatures howled in a feverish pitch, they rose into the sky with the last wisps of smoke from the lantern. It hurt like nothing I'd felt in years, but it was a cleansing hurt. I didn't hide from it. I didn't send it away. I embraced it. I won't say pain is good, but it's undeniably real. I'd rather hurt than bury that pain, living with the hollow it leaves behind. Thank you for listening to my story. If you relate, know you're not alone. Healing takes time, but it starts with facing the darkness.